it's taking a long time. And so I was really getting kind of bothered and annoyed. And if you're her, if you're Addie and you're 15 years old and you're about to spend $400 on a pair of shoes, you can imagine the time that it would take. Okay, I got this outfit and I got that outfit, but I can wear these here and not here, and these get dirty. And so she's going through all these scenarios because it's really important to her. And I'm over there bugged and annoyed because it wasn't important to me. And it dawned on me in that moment, boy, that is so true. And it's so true with everybody, and it's probably true about everything. And so when people come on and say, you're cramming this trans stuff down my throat, you know, the bottom line is everybody's tolerance is different based on what their interest is in that. And if you don't have a trans person in your life at all, I can imagine that this is so loud and so annoying. And if you do, then you already understand how difficult and how little of really good information there is out there. So, your interest in this or how much this annoys you probably has everything to do with your proximity to the issue, your interest in the issue. So, I do want to be patient with people who haven't yet had the experience to get interested, but you will. That experience is coming to your family because that experience is coming to every family, at least somebody in the LGBTQ community. So, we just want to be here and talk about those issues for those people where that proximity of that issue is very, very close. I have a genuine question. Can I join the live? Yes. Yes, David, you absolutely could, and thank you.
And I'll be right back. And we are freezing a lot, so I'm not sure why.
This is David. Yeah, David, put your camera on, man. Don't be hiding that face. I'm doing amazing, David. How are you doing?
Thank the good Lord. Thank the good Lord. Okay, I do have a genuine question.
Please.
What am I doing? I'm echoing. I'm going to try and leave and let me join because it's created an echo. Can I leave and join again?
You know what? Maybe it's me. Yeah, I'm gonna unplug my stuff too and see if that. Do you still have the echo? You don't have the echo anymore? Okay, it was probably me. So I apologize.
Oh no, but if it's lag, I don't know, something's off. Let me try and disconnect. I'm going to rejoin right now and then see if that
okay
does anything. All right.
Sounds great. You're great to me.
Perfect.
David's having technical difficulties, but it's probably me. It's probably my deal.
Well, everyone asked if it was freezing, and I was like, yes, I'm freezing.
Really?
No. Yeah, really. But that's so funny that I thought they were noticing that I was cold.
That's funny. Well, David's come back on, and if the thing is just freezing up, then it probably doesn't make sense to it. David, is this any better for you?
Yeah, sounding perfect.
Great.
Everything's good.
Hey, thank you for diving in.
I feel like I'm on one of those business Zoom calls where the fucking first conversation is, "Can you hear me?" Every single time for 2.5 years. But
no, this is
a question for you.
Yes, sir.
Now, and I want to know your thoughts because you. And I don't know your entire storyline, and I've only seen you a couple of times on the feed. I've actually followed you, and I'm deeply interested in hearing different people's experiences and so on and so forth. I do find a lot of things confusing sometimes, trying to make sense of things, and but I try my hardest to try and listen and learn about people's experiences.
Thank you.
But yeah, now with that said, I was on a conversation with a person on TikTok the other day called Clayton, right? So he used to be a biological female, transitioned to male, and we had an amazing conversation for like probably 2 hours. It was a good dialogue. I was asking a lot of questions. He was totally cool with it, but I think other people were threatened that he was cool with it because my questions were very formal. And if I was to ask someone that's not trans those questions, like, oh, that's a very transphobic question to ask, or something like that. So it was a very interesting conversation. And someone else on the channel, was like 4 people. One of them was a woman, and she said she has a 3-year-old trans child. Now, I'm a father of 2 children, and I found that deeply confusing to understand, because if the idea of trans is that the person identifies that way, children have no sense of identification with anything.
Yeah.
And a 3-year-old, and I'm not being hyperbolic, I swear this is a real, you could ask like Kate, I could send you the link. I'm not making this up. And I want to understand this, right? Because I don't mean to take away any experience whatsoever from people that legitimately feel uncomfortable in their body and want to be identified differently. But my son, literally, he dresses up, and I don't say this as like a bad, like a far-fetched, let me just say it without me feeling, if that's all right. So my son dresses up as Batman, right? I'll dress up as Batman with him, and I'll play Robin. I'll play Batman. We'll have fun about that.
Sure.
And that's fine. He's a kid. He's having fun. He's experimenting,
Uh-huh.
learning about different things, and I'm all for it. But at the end of the day, he isn't actually Batman, right? And
Right.
what I want to know is, with regards to trans, in essence, what parenting have to be, to a fair extent, responsible for the well-being of their children till their child is of the age of consent, in the
Sure.
sense that they have the rationality to fend for themselves in the outside world.
Sure.
And in that scenario, I would say, doesn't it sound a bit like a bit confusing that a child can even know what gender they are at such a young age?
Well, David, let me ask you this. Let me ask you this really quick. And number one, thank you for the question, and thank you for being respectful. This is exactly how dialogue should happen. It's a genuine question, and it's an important question. This is a question that Matt Walsh brought up in the movie What is a Woman, but he compared it to Santa Claus. Okay, so you're not the first person to have this thought. So let's talk about that for a second. But first, let me ask you this question. At what age was it that you became 100% sure that you were a boy? Like, when was that?
So I don't think it was an age where I was 100% sure I was a boy. Because
Okay.
And I say this really genuine, Allyssa. I don't know. I know what's stereotypically expected of me as a male,
Mm-hmm.
right? I know the stereotype. I know the pressure based on my own inner circle, right? I'm religious. I'm Jewish, so I have my own set of standards I'm held to in the Orthodox Jewish community. Then in the outside Western world, and so on and so forth. I don't know what it is to be a man.
Okay.
Intrinsically, I can't define it to be a man. If someone says, "What is a man?" I could say I'm physically strong, or something.
Sure.
Like that. Or I could say, "Well, society asked me to do
There-
overall for a woman," but that's all a social construct.
Right. But so those are manly characteristics, right? And they're feminine characteristics. So let's break this down a little bit, because it's not just the 1 3-year-old that you were talking about. It's 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds and 5-year-olds all over the country, all over the world. And a 3-year-old's not getting on social media and saying, "Hey, look, I'm going to buck the system. I'm going to rebel against my parents or whatever else." The bottom line is, when we're born with certain switches to turn on, and subconsciously we kind of know what we're capable of and what we're not capable of. So a 3-year-old whose self-actualization says, "Hey, wait a minute, with the switches that are turned on in me, this environment is not going to be a healthy environment for me. This is the environment that's better for me." The 3-year-old is proof that we really, really need to take a much closer look at this, because they're not bucking the system. It's not influenced by friends or social media. It's them saying, no, the switches that I have in me, this is my best chance of survival and health and happiness. So comparing that to a superhero, look, we all dream, we all have ambitions, we all want to be great at whatever we think great is. But transgender is simply about gender identity. It's simply, I'm going to pick this social gender role, or I'm going to pick this social gender role based on the switches and the capacities, that I'm born with, whether that's chemical, physical, whatever it is. So it's not necessarily about genetics or chromosomes, and it can't be, because now we know that there are women who have an XY chromosome and men who have XX chromosomes. But what we don't know is in here what's controlling all of that, and where the actual self-actualization comes from. So I do believe it. What I would really encourage you to do is watch a very tender podcast called How to Be a Girl. And it's this amazing mother who's got this young child, like you're talking about, who says, "Man, my child's telling me that they're a girl." Like, oh my gosh, and there's no way around it. And if I don't let them wear what they want to wear to be confident and happy, then they're unhappy, and they're miserable, and they're angry, and they're not responsive, and it becomes the most angry, sad, disappointed child in the world. And the only thing that mother has to do to fix it is let them present how they want to present, and that child is the healthiest, happiest thing ever. So, it's not the same as Santa Claus, because you can believe in Santa Claus. Santa Claus doesn't have anything to do with your self-actualization. It may have something to do with your hope, your desires, your excitement, your magic, all of the mystical things. But that's not, hey, this Santa Claus represents me. Suddenly I feel like I am Santa Claus. Suddenly I feel like I am Batman, right? You're not going to run around identifying as Batman all of the time. That's not a natural human thing. But what is a natural human thing is to say, okay, there's two genders. I'm looking around. There's two genders here. I've got to pick one to live the rest of my life. I have to pick one that people are going to know me by. So,
But then I have a question. So I'm fully with you on that, and I might have to ask this question. Actually, are you going to be on this live in about half an hour from now?
uh-huh, probably, yeah.
Okay, because I've got a person I study with, religious studies, and he's just arrived. This guy just turned up. So I do have one thing I want to ask, and then if it's a longer answer, just tell me. It's going to take a bit more time to dissect that. If we can knock it out in a minute, then that'd be great.
Yeah,
My
a minute would
question
be good.
was, in a society where, and this is kind of where I'm getting, this is where a lot of my confusion comes in. On one hand, we know that masculinity and femininity falls on a spectrum. So men could be both masculine and more feminine, and women
Right.
could be feminine and more masculine, and so
Right.
on and so forth. And we know that, stereotypically speaking, stereotypical gender roles pretty much differ and vary depending on where you were born, when you were born, nationality, culture, and so on and so forth. For example, in Scotland, people might wear kilts, which would be stereotypically, if one's never seen a kilt,
Mm-hmm.
associated with more of a feminine dress, right? In the West, in like for example, America, than it is in Scotland, which is a more masculine attire, and so on and so forth. Now, here's what I want to know: gender abolitionists. If gender abolitionists succeed in the sense that they eradicate all stereotypical gender roles attributed to either male or female to a completely non-binary, gender fluid society where there is no men or women, it's just people, and people with talents and people who lack those talents, people more competent, and so on and so forth. Wouldn't that de-validify the trans experience? But because what I understand, like trans seems to, and I might be deeply wrong here, and forgive my ignorance here, but from my understanding is, from the encounters I've had speaking with some individuals, not many of transes, they tell me that they resonated with the social construct of the opposite gender.
That's correct. That's correct. So Dave, that's a great question, and the reality is that that's not going to happen. That's never going to happen. They're not going to erase the genders. That's not possible. A transgender person is not saying that a male and a female role is not important. They're saying it is important. It's so important that I get in the right side of this, that I'll risk my family, I'll risk my job, I'll risk my friends, I'll risk my health because it's that important. Transgender is not about we want to erase gender. It's about we want to be identified as the right thing. That's right. So
I'm with you on that. I'm with you.
so it's not about sexuality. It's not about sexuality. It's these are the roles, these are the routines, this is the lifestyle that aligns most with how I feel emotionally, chemically, whatever that is. And regardless of where that came from, did it come from pollutants? Did it come from vaccines? Did it come from trauma experiences? Did it come from who knows where it came from? It doesn't matter. What matters is the who that's in front of us going, hey, I'm not happy in this role. I want to give you a different name to call me by. Great. Give me that name and let me at least do my smallest part to help you be happy and healthy and identify, as accurately as you can. So I don't think that many transgender people are saying we want to eradicate gender. I think gender is critical for our society.
No, of course. No. I'm saying the exact opposite.
Yeah, I know.
Gender abolitionists
Right.
are the ones up saying that there is no stereotype attributed to women and there is no stereotype attributed to men. That's the patriarchy. That's the social.
Yeah,
construct.
we both know that's wrong.
In theory, I'm for traditional gender roles, right? I think I genuinely believe there's a lot of value to a society that knows their strength and knows their weakness and knows how to partner up that can complement each other. What I do see is that I find it deeply confusing progressives how on one hand they're like very, very pro the experience of trans individuals, but then simultaneously just dismantle the notion that there even is a gender role associated with the gender in the first place.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Kind of like, I find that deeply confusing. I just find it confusing. Either the boy is like, for example, no less of a boy if he plays with dolls and likes paint, or he's a boy that may be a girl because he resonates. No, I'm not saying that. That's like a very like
sure
stereotypical sense, but
sure.
generally speaking, like on one hand, I see people advocating that a man is no less of a man if he wants to drink cocktails, and a woman is no less of a woman if she wants to drink beer, and they should be treated as such. And then simultaneously, there's so many people are arguing that the man must be taken seriously as a woman because he likes cocktails. And
Yeah, so
take seriously as a man because she likes beer. And I'm like, wait a minute, you can't be taken in too. Either the gender roles are not real and it's a complete social construct, or there is stereotypical things that women resonate more with and men resonate more with. And
yeah,
that's how society evolved to have those roles.
yeah, and we know that that is the case. We know that most things are gendered, and so I don't think that eradicating anything or the idea that everything is going to be neutral. I don't think any of us would buy this, right? You've got basically two people for the most part. There's always an exception. There's always somebody in the middle. I get that, but overall, the majority is, you're either driven by ego or you're driven by vanity, and those sound like negative terms, but they're really not. And if you want to think about that deeper, just think what consumes your time, what consumes your money, what consumes your energy. And if you're a guy, most likely most of those things that consume those are going to be things of ego driven or that affect the ego some way. Where does a girl spend her time? Right, doing things of vanity, doing things, and I'm not using that in derogatory term because I understand this at such a deeper level, but it's about things about taking care of yourself, taking care of other people. It's how you look, it's how you feel. It's much more um, vain than ego. And what does somebody who's really vain want? They want somebody with a big ego that can take care of them and provide and do that. What does somebody with a big ego want? They want somebody over here that's really vain, that looks good and has nice nails and pretty and the whole deal. This is the attraction. This is the engine that makes the world go round, right? So if you take out the fuel of the engine, that doesn't work. And that I'm glad you recognize that that's not what transgender about. Transgender is about, hey, look, I was born. It doesn't matter what's in my pants. This is the role that I want to play because it's a social construct, and that's going to tell you what's important to me, and that's going to tell you what I value and how to treat me. That's what it's all about.
I
They
know, I love it. I love it. I'm all for. That's one of the things I respect disproportionately about. Well, I respect disproportionately about trans people is that when they, those that transition, they transition in a way that deeply resembles that of the ideal woman and that of the ideal man within society. Like when I look at, for example, Buck Angel. I don't know if you're familiarized with Buck Angel. He's like old school trans.
No, I don't know him, but.
Okay, whatever. I do want to know one last thing, and I've really got to leave.
Well, Dave, just give me a call back because nobody can even watch us because I'm lagging so bad. So I need to actually disconnect. I need to disconnect and then get back. So
I'm going to call you back in like 25.
all right, buddy. Thanks for the call.
Perfect.
All right. Bye. Wow, our internet is a disaster. I don't know. Is there a faster thing than we're paying for? Guys, I'm gonna turn this off and I'm gonna reboot my internet router. Then we'll come back on. I probably won't even answer any questions. I'm just gonna go right to makeup and shut this down, which will give me one more time to block. I shaved really close just earlier, and I'm just bleeding like crazy. Like there was literally like 12 or 14 spots. I use this terrible Gillette stuff, which I never use, and a brand new razor, and it's like I just scratched my face and I'm Edward Scissorhands. So it'll give that just one more minute to coagulate, and then we'll go right to it. So I'm going to stop streaming and I'm going to go reboot my router, and I'm going to come right back on. So, I know you have so much to do today. If you feel like coming back and checking back in, we'd love to have you here just so much. So we'll be right back.
All of TikTok is lagging, not just you guys.
Okay, so we'll do this how I can figure it out right here, and I didn't even have to get off to do it. I just need to run the speed test. TDS iPhone 13. Oh, it's coming from my iPhone 13. See, it's not a router. Look at that. That's 400.
I wonder if TikTok only comes from your phone. You can't stream from like a laptop.
No, this is the highest internet anyway.
Or I mean YouTube and stuff.